I still remember the day I stumbled upon the hidden world of Reddit horror stories. It was a typical Tuesday evening, and I had just settled into my favorite armchair, ready to indulge in some online browsing. My friend had recommended a subreddit dedicated to sharing terrifying tales, and I couldn't resist the allure of the unknown. As I scrolled through the threads, I came across a post titled "The Isolation Experiment," a story that would change my life forever. It began with an anonymous user claiming to have participated in a mysterious experiment where they were isolated from the outside world for 30 days. The user shared their experiences of feeling increasingly disconnected from reality, as if their mind was being manipulated by some unseen force. I was both fascinated and repulsed by the account, wondering if it was genuine or just another internet hoax. But what really caught my attention was the comment section beneath the post. Users were sharing their own experiences of similar isolation experiments, each one more disturbing than the last. It was as if we were all connected to this eerie phenomenon, and I felt an unsettling sense of camaraderie with these strangers. Little did I know, I was about to embark on a journey that would take me down a rabbit hole of ancient secrets and unspeakable horrors. As I delved deeper into the world of Reddit horror stories, I began to notice a peculiar trend. Many of these stories seemed to be connected to an obscure figure named Isaac Newton. Some claimed he was more than just a renowned physicist, that he possessed knowledge from other dimensions, knowledge that threatened the very fabric of our reality. I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was being pulled into something much larger than myself. The threads were tangled, and it seemed like every new discovery led to more questions. But I was determined to unravel the mysteries hidden within these Reddit horror stories. For in the depths of this dark internet world, I sensed a truth, one that could change the course of human history. And so I began my journey, armed with nothing but my curiosity and a willingness to confront the terrors that lurked in the shadows. Little did I know, the horrors I was about to face would shatter my perception of reality forever. I spent the next few days poring over the isolation experiment post, reading every comment and trying to piece together what was happening. The more I read, the more I became convinced that something was off about this subreddit. It was as if users were sharing their deepest fears and darkest secrets, but with a strange, almost hypnotic tone. The posts seemed to be drawing me in, making me feel like I was part of some twisted game. And then, one night, I stumbled upon it, the thread that would change everything. A user had posted a story titled "The Echo Chamber," detailing their experiences with an online group that seemed to be manipulating their thoughts and actions. The account was eerily detailed, as if the writer had been living in some sort of alternate reality. But what really caught my attention was the comment section. Users were sharing their own stories of similar encounters, each one more disturbing than the last. Some claimed to have experienced strange visions and auditory hallucinations, while others spoke of feeling an overwhelming sense of dread that seemed to follow them everywhere. As I read through the comments, I began to feel a creeping sense of unease. It was as if I was being watched, and not just by the users of this subreddit, but by something lurking just beyond the edge of perception. And then, I saw it, a post from a user named Echo12, detailing their own experiences with an otherworldly presence that seemed to be guiding them towards some unknown destination. The post was dated several months ago, and yet it felt eerily fresh, as if whatever had written it was still out there, watching me. I had been following the Reddit thread for days, devouring every post and comment like they were going out of style. But it wasn't until I stumbled upon a new thread titled The Newton Effect that things started to get really weird. It seemed that users were sharing their experiences with strange optical illusions, distorted perspectives, impossible geometry, and otherworldly shapes that defied explanation. At first, I thought it was just some prank or a viral marketing campaign gone wrong. But as I delved deeper into the thread, I realized that these weren't just tricks of the light. They were genuine anomalies in the fabric of reality. One user claimed to have seen a figure standing in the corner of their room, only to realize that it was just a projection on the wall. Another said that the laws of physics no longer applied when they looked at certain images online. I tried to brush it off as some kind of prank or hoax, but the more I read, the more I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. And then, it happened. I was browsing through the thread when I saw a post from an unknown user, a single image with no caption or explanation. It was just a photo of a door, but something about it seemed off. The door didn't quite fit into the frame, and the wood grain seemed to shift and writhe like a living thing. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I realized that I had seen this exact same door before, in a dream, I think. Or was it real life? The image seemed to be pulling me towards it, like some kind of dark magnetism. And then, everything went black. I came to, groggily opening my eyes to find myself back in my own bed. The dream was still fresh in my mind. I had seen the door again, and this time it was standing right outside my bedroom window. But as I sat up and swung my legs over the side of the bed, I realized that something was off. The room seemed different. The furniture was still the same, but the shadows seemed to be cast in a way that made them appear twisted and distorted. And then I saw it, standing just outside my window, watching me with an unblinking gaze. It was him, the figure from the door image. I tried to scream, but my voice caught in my throat. The figure didn't move, didn't blink. It just kept staring at me, its presence filling the room like a cold wind. I felt a wave of fear wash over me, and I knew that I had to get out of there. But as I stumbled out of bed and staggered towards the door, I realized that it was no longer there. The window was open, and the night air rushed in, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I realized that I had left my bedroom through the figure's doorway. I stumbled back to bed, unsure of what was real and what wasn't. But one thing was certain. I knew that I had to uncover the truth about this mysterious figure and its connection to Reddit. I knew I had to start investigating the figure and its connection to Reddit. I spent hours scouring the internet for any mention of a mysterious figure with an otherworldly presence, but every lead seemed to end in a dead end. It was as if the figure didn't exist outside of the Reddit thread, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to it than met the eye. That's when I stumbled upon an obscure forum dedicated to ancient history and mythology. The topic was the lost works of Isaac Newton, a series of cryptic texts and manuscripts attributed to the famous physicist, but never published during his lifetime. I spent hours poring over the forum posts, searching for any mention of the figure or its connection to Reddit. And then, it hit me, a post from a user named Newtonian, claiming that Newton had made contact with an ancient entity while working on his most famous theory, the law of universal gravitation. The post was dated several months ago, but the language and tone seemed eerily familiar. I felt a shiver run down my spine as I realized that this might be the key to unlocking the mystery. I started digging deeper, following a trail of cryptic clues and references to ancient texts. The more I learned, the more I realized that I was dealing with something much bigger than a simple internet prank or hoax. This was something that had been hidden in plain sight for centuries, waiting for someone to uncover its secrets. And I knew that I had to keep searching, no matter where it led. As I delved deeper into the world of ancient mythology and Isaac Newton's lost works, I began to uncover cryptic messages and symbols that seemed to point to a larger conspiracy. The threads on Reddit were filled with references to an ancient language known as Erebus, which seemed to be a code used by Newton himself. I spent hours poring over the posts, trying to decipher the meaning behind the strange symbols and characters. Some were geometric shapes, others were hieroglyphics, but they all seemed to point to one thing, a hidden message that only a select few could understand. One user, Iribizian, claimed to have cracked the code and was sharing their findings with the community. The posts were cryptic, but they seemed to suggest that Newton had made contact with an otherworldly entity known as the architect. According to Iribizian, the architect was a being of immense power and knowledge, who had guided Newton in his work on the law of universal gravitation. But what did it all mean? I knew I had to keep searching for answers. One night, I received a private message from Iribizian, inviting me to meet them in person. The meeting was set for an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of town, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this was going to be a turning point in my investigation. As I arrived at the warehouse, I saw a figure waiting for me in the shadows. It was Iribizian, their face obscured by a hood. "Welcome," they said, their voice low and mysterious. "I see you're interested in uncovering the truth." They handed me a small package, wrapped in black cloth. "This contains a key to unlocking the secrets of the architect, but be warned, once you start down this path, there's no turning back." I took a deep breath and unwrapped the package, revealing a small, intricately carved stone. Iribizian handed me a book, bound in black leather, adorned with strange symbols that seemed to match the ones I had seen on Reddit. "This is the Journal of Newton," they said. "It contains the secrets of the architect." As I flipped through the pages, I saw that it was filled with cryptic notes and diagrams, but one entry stood out, a description of the figure in question. According to Newton himself, the figure was not a being at all, but a manifestation of the human mind's ability to perceive reality. It was a trick of the light, a shadow on the wall that took on a life of its own. But there was more. The entry spoke of an experiment, one that Newton had conducted on himself, using the principles of optics and perception. He had created a device, a tool that could manipulate the human brain's ability to perceive reality. And then I saw it, a drawing of the device itself, with symbols and markings that seemed to match the ones I had seen on Reddit. It was a device that used sound waves to alter the human brain's perception of reality. The figure, according to Newton, was not a being at all, but a creation of the device, a creation of the mind's own making. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized the true nature of the figure. It was not a monster or an entity at all, but a product of human ingenuity and experimentation. The Reddit threads were just a game, a simulation created by Newton himself to test the limits of human perception. And I had fallen for it, hook, line, and sinker. As I continued to study the Journal of Newton, I began to feel a creeping sense of unease. The more I read, the more I became convinced that I was on the verge of uncovering a profound truth. But with each passing page, my grip on reality began to slip. The symbols and markings seemed to dance before my eyes, taunting me with their secrets. I started to see them everywhere, in the walls, in the furniture, even in the faces of those around me. They were everywhere, watching me, waiting for me to make a mistake. My sleep became fitful, my dreams filled with visions of the device and its eerie glow. I began to wonder if I was still sane, or if the madness had already taken hold. Iribizian's message echoed in my mind: the truth is not for the faint of heart. But what truth? What was I searching for? The lines between reality and illusion blurred, and I found myself lost in a labyrinth of mirrors, with no escape from the reflections that haunted me. My sanity began to unravel, thread by thread, until I was left staring into the abyss, unsure of what lay ahead. And then one night I received a message from an unknown sender: meet me at the old clock tower at midnight. Come alone. The words seemed to sear themselves into my brain, and I knew that I had no choice but to follow them. For in the darkness I was drawn to the unknown, like a moth to the flame. The clock tower loomed before me, its face like a cold and unforgiving eye. I had come here alone, as instructed, with no idea what to expect. The message on the screen had been cryptic, but it had drawn me in like a moth to the flame. As I reached the top of the stairs, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was an old man, his face lined with age and wisdom. He beckoned me closer, and I hesitated for a moment before following him into the darkness. We walked through narrow corridors, lined with ancient symbols and murals. The air was thick with incense, and I could feel the weight of history bearing down upon me. Finally, we arrived at a large door, adorned with intricate carvings. The old man produced a key and unlocked it, revealing a vast chamber beyond. It was filled with rows of ancient artifacts, each one more astonishing than the last. There were texts, scrolls, and tomes bound in leather and gold. I saw devices that looked like they belonged in a science fiction movie, and instruments that seemed to defy explanation. And then I saw it, the device itself. It was massive, towering over me like a monolith. The old man smiled as if he could see the wonder on my face. "This is the instrument of perception," he said. "It was built by the ancient ones to manipulate reality itself." I felt a shiver run down my spine as I realized the implications. This device had been used to create the figure, the one that haunted me for so long. It was not a monster at all, but a creation of human ingenuity and experimentation. The Reddit threads were just a game, a simulation created by Newton himself to test the limits of human perception. And I had played along, hook, line, and sinker. The old man's eyes seemed to bore into my soul as he spoke the next words: "You have been chosen to inherit this knowledge, but be warned. Once you start down this path, there is no turning back." I knew then that my life would never be the same again. I had uncovered an ancient conspiracy, one that threatened to upend everything I thought I knew about reality itself. I felt a presence around me, as if the entity had taken up residence in my mind. The symbols and markings seemed to pulse with a life of their own, and I could feel its influence spreading through my thoughts. I tried to shake it off, but it was no use. The entity had already begun to seep into my reality, altering the world around me. Objects moved on their own, and shadows seemed to twist and writhe like living things. I knew that I had to resist, but it was getting harder by the minute. The old man's words echoed in my mind: "Once you start down this path, there is no turning back." I realized then that I was trapped in a web of the entity's making, with no way out. The Reddit thread seemed like a distant memory, a relic of a time when I had still been sane. Now, they were just a reminder of the game I had played and the consequences that followed. I was at the mercy of the entity, forced to dance to its twisted tune. And yet, despite the terror that gripped my heart, I felt a strange sense of fascination. The entity's influence was growing stronger by the minute, and I could feel myself being drawn into its orbit. It was as if I had become addicted to the thrill of the unknown, the rush of adrenaline that came with facing the impossible. I knew then that I was in grave danger, but I couldn't help myself. I was consumed by a desire to know more, to unlock the secrets of the entity and understand its twisted mind. The line between reality and madness was blurring, and I knew that soon I would be lost forever in the entity's labyrinthine world. As I delved deeper into the entity's influence, I stumbled upon a hidden chamber deep within its lair. The air was thick with an otherworldly energy, and I could feel the weight of the entity's presence bearing down upon me. Suddenly, the walls began to shift and contort, revealing a massive crystal structure at the heart of the chamber. The entity emerged from the shadows, its presence radiating an aura of malevolent power. "You have been chosen to receive the ultimate truth," it hissed, its voice like a cold wind blowing through my mind. "The universe is not what you think it is. Reality is but a simulation created by a higher power to contain the chaos of existence." The entity began to speak in riddles, revealing fragments of an ancient wisdom that defied comprehension. I listened, entranced, as the truth unfolded before me like a tapestry of madness. "The architects of reality are not what they seem," it whispered. "They are but puppets, dancing on the strings of a cosmic game. And you, mortal, are but a pawn in this grand scheme." The revelation was too much to bear. My mind reeled as I struggled to comprehend the sheer scale of the entity's design. I felt my sanity unraveling like threads pulled from a tapestry. "What do you want from me?" I demanded, my voice barely above a whisper. "You have shown me the truth," it replied. "Now, you must decide whether to join the game or be cast aside as a discarded pawn." The entity's words hung in the air like a challenge, leaving me with no choice but to take the leap into the unknown. As I stood before the entity, I knew that I had reached a crossroads. The revelation had shattered my understanding of reality, leaving me with more questions than answers. I looked into the entity's eyes and saw only darkness reflecting back at me. "Join us," it whispered, its voice like a cold breeze on a winter's night. "Together we can create a new reality, one where the boundaries of sanity are stretched to their limits." I hesitated, unsure if I was ready to take this step. But then I remembered the Reddit threads, the cryptic messages that had led me down this path. It was all too familiar now, the whispers in the dark, the shadows that moved on their own. I knew that I couldn't turn back. The entity's influence had consumed me, body and soul. "I'm ready," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. The entity smiled, its presence radiating an aura of malevolent power. And then everything went black. When I came to, I was alone in a desolate landscape, surrounded by nothing but darkness. The sky was a deep, foreboding purple, and the air was thick with an otherworldly energy. I knew that I had crossed into a realm where the laws of physics no longer applied. Time itself was distorted, stretching out before me like a twisted puzzle. I stumbled forward, driven by a sense of curiosity and madness. The entity's voice echoed in my mind, guiding me deeper into the abyss. "Welcome to eternal darkness," it whispered. "Here, sanity is but a distant memory, lost forever in the void." And with that, the world went dark, consumed by an endless expanse of nothingness.